you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know, we're hardwired, the habits are there, they're deeper and deeper and more rutted. And yet now, neuroscience is telling us about this neuroplasticity and the capacities we have to rewire ourselves. And that there are ways to begin to affect new behaviors, new habits that are positive habits rather than negative, and probably go both ways. But what I want to do is just stay in the complexities of, yes, we are predetermined by many factors, social factors, family factors, attitude factors, biological factors. All those things do prime us to be kind of predetermined in certain ways. And it's also true that I you know, get into this conversation choosing non-dual philosophy, and I am going to stay with my direct experience that says I chose those words just now. Just
You're kidding.
I just want to add one thing. Supposing everything is predetermined and you knew it, maybe you could change it. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine told me the other day that he knows he gets angry every single time he gets in a car, rush hour traffic. He has a 2-hour ride to Santa Rosa, he cannot stand it. But he has also read somewhere that everybody from cows to little babies feel good when they listen to Mozart. So when he gets on the car, he knows that his biology will change if he turns on Mozart. He turns on Mozart and the anger goes away. So that's a way of maybe self-awareness at another level can change your own biology.
So you asked a question about free will and if it's an illusion or not. And I think the answer to that is the question of consciousness and awareness.
Where are you?
So on the level of the unconscious, you have very little free will. On the level of consciousness, you have possibly free will if you want to use it. You got here, which proves you have free will. You made the conscious choice to make a series of steps that got you here. But your emotions shape you. Shaping doesn't mean it's automatic, permanent, determinate. Shaping is exactly that. It influences you. You can choose to override your shaping if you become aware of that process. You have to become consciously aware of it. But unconsciousness has the power to influence you if you don't make awareness of it. You will always be determined by your emotions if you just let them run you and you don't bring them to your awareness. You have to decide to do that. Yes, emotions can influence you, shape you, and determine that you don't have free will because they happen very fast. But you can slow down the process if you choose to. And you can slightly and sometimes intervene. It's a tricky process, but you always have the potential for free will. I'm also right. That's my book.
I agree with almost everything you just said. I wanted to say that most behavior is not random. I think you're confusing the lack of randomness with the issue of whether we ever have choice. I also want to say that we should all be so grateful that there are such things as habits, because when you develop a habit, you free consciousness for things for which you don't have habits. So you can best see this when those of you who've driven here, if you drive home, you'll be thinking about a lot of other things, because driving home is something you do without having to use consciousness. It's now become habitual. All the decisions are made outside of consciousness, and so that opens the arena as to what consciousness can focus on, and those are choice moments. And if you get into the area of thoughts, what do I want to think? What book do I want to read? Which page do I want to turn to? There's a lot of choice. When you get into the area of an emotion having already begun to arise, then it's much more of a struggle, but it's not an impossibility. But again, it's less of a struggle for some people than it is for others, depending on our experience and our biology.
I'd like to just add to something that's been said. It's very useful, I think, to try to get away from the idea that we would be free if we had a certain kind of cool, deliberative detachment and were able to make all the decisions for the good reasons, as if that would somehow be the estimate of our freedom. We're much more like the skier on the ski slope, or my preferred metaphor, in fact, I think it's not even just a metaphor, I think this is really just an instance of what life is. We're in a dance. And part of what we do is we cultivate ourselves over a lifetime. This is in a way to make the very same point that's just been made about freeing up, acquiring habit to free up the space for consciousness. We cultivate ourselves so that we can be automatically responsive, so that we can be in tune, so that we can be in rhythm, so that we can be with another. And it's not exactly clear even what the room for choice is in the context of a dance. Certainly, stepping back and asking, should I go left or should I go right, is going to disrupt the dance. That will end the dance. Right? The dance has to be conducted in the flow. And so this is actually really an interesting paradox. How does one both do something in the flow and yet have a certain kind of self-reflective quality to it also? I just heard a phrase, actually. I don't know the context in which it was written. I heard a phrase from Kierkegaard. He said that we self-reflect in the service of immediacy. And I think the idea is that there's a kind of a give and take, a back and forth, a reflective equilibrium that we try to establish to think about what we're doing as we do it and as we move forward. And maybe freedom comes from something about the quality of the way we do that. Maybe that's really what freedom is. There's a certain kind of attunement to the wider world rather than just flowing from what you've already done. Very hard question.